has a way of stripping us from everything to get our attention. People, places, and things. Standing here in front of you is the gift that recovery gave me 13 years ago. Any idea what these are? Was I a writer, a personal assistant, a planner? These are planners that chronicle my addiction to prescription painkillers from 2000 to 2010. I was doctor shopping and pharmacy hopping. I was involved in drug diversion. I was going from doctors from state to state, hopping on flights. Doctors were writing prescriptions for every ailment, giving out opioids like candy. My life was like the movie Catch Me If You Can. Every time I walked into a pharmacy, the cops were called, and I walked out. Prescription fraud was very easy for me back in the 2000s. I never resorted to street drugs, yet that very legality allowed me to justify my substance use for close to a decade. In 2022, 300 Americans died from an overdose every single day. That's a staggering 109,680 human souls. According to the CDC, I am one of the estimated 20.5 million Americans living in recovery today. Recovery is possible. I grew up in a small town in a happy home. My dad was an elder. My mom was an usher. We spent a lot of time in church, Bible study, choir rehearsal, every type of church event, we were there. And I was a bully kid. My family was very loving. They did everything they could to protect me from the bullies. I thought I was ugly because I had thick glasses, I was skinny, and had a raspy voice, as I still do. My parents did everything they could, but guess what? My love for music and my passion for fashion drowned out all the noise from the bullies. I graduated high school in 1991, and I turned from an ugly duckling to a beautiful swan. I loved fashion. Every piece of clothing that I owned was Donna Karan. I wore so much Donna Karan that everyone started calling me Dinky. And of course today, what am I wearing? Donna Karan. After high school, I moved to Philly. My life was great. I landed a job that I really loved as a therapeutic support staff with autistic children. One day, at my client's school, his music class was located inside of a church basement. A tumble down a church stairwell would change my life forever. I wound up having to get surgery for a torn meniscus to my knee. I'd never gotten surgery before. After the procedure, I went home with a prescription for Lorcet hydrocodone. The doctor gave me 120 of them. I had never did drugs in my life. The doctor said, take one every 4 to 6 hours. I did. And then at some point, I started noticing a different feeling that I was getting. I felt happy. I felt motivated. I loved them. I loved them right away. So guess what I did? I started taking more. For what reason, I don't know. I went from one every 4 to 6 hours as prescribed to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and sometimes up to 6 pills at once. I didn't understand body tolerance. When you start taking an opioid, and the more you take, the more you need to come back to that feeling you started with. My goal became to get more. And then there was an unexplained sickness that I started getting. I didn't know what that was. I come to know it as withdrawal. Brutal. So I was desperate. So guess what? I started shopping for doctors like my shoes in the yellow pages. Who remember the yellow pages? That's how old I am. I'm in the yellow pages looking for doctors. Then I'm driving around in my car in random neighborhoods trying to find doctors. My life had changed. And at some point, I realized that I wasn't even taking them for the knee pain anymore. I was taking them because I needed them. I was actually faking at this point because I think my knee healed by then. So I was walking around with this ridiculous big blue knee brace on, and I kept wearing that for pity. I was very, very sick. I started isolating myself from everyone. Isolation is a big part of substance use disorder. People totally don't want to be around people. I was depressed. I couldn't explain what was happening to me. I didn't have someone advocating for me. I wanted to kill myself when I ran out of pills. These planners here are my life. This is how I kept track of all my doctors, how many pills a week I was getting, the pharmacies I was going to, what doctor was I going to see. These planners chronicled my addiction. I was traveling from city to state. I was hopping on flights, going to see doctors for pills. I was desperate. I was possessing a flooring 1,000 pills a month or more. My body was fragile. My face was skeletal. I was 97 pounds. One of my doctors thought I was anorexic. So he said, Miss Ellis, we're going to give you some Insure Plus nutritional drinks. They'll help you get your weight back. So I said, okay. So he wrote me a script. And then, me with my savvy thoughts, I had a friend that worked at a store, and she said, we sell Insure there. So I said, is the SKU number the same? She said, yeah. So I took it to her store and sold them for cash. And then I used that cash to get more pills. Has anyone ever had a life or death situation where you had an aha moment? The thing about an aha moment is you have a moment, a second, or minute to make a life-changing decision. But sometimes we don't choose to act on that because it's scary and it's frightening. We don't know what to expect. I had 3 aha moments throughout my addiction that should have shaken me up by my bootstraps. But guess what? They didn't. Addiction is powerful. I'm going to tell you my aha moments. Aha moment 1, the doctor visit. One day, I fake limped up with that blue knee brace. I fake limped up the doctor's steps to go into the office. His office looked like a house. I limped up the steps. I went inside. I was going through withdrawal really bad. I wanted my pills. The doctor looked at me and said, Miss Ellis, we're concerned for your life. I looked at him like, what? He said, we got your urine sample back, and we looked at it, and we found 3 times the amount of hydrocodone that we're prescribing you in your urine. How are you still standing? Miss Ellis, I'm going to need you to go to the ER right away. Your urine looks like someone had overdosed. Aha moment 2. Pill bottles in a trash bag. One day, I was going through withdrawal, and I thought I dropped pills in the closet. I'm frantically in my closet, tearing everything up, throwing stuff around. Then I come upon a trash bag. I opened it. It was a green trash bag full of empty pill bottles. They had different dates, different doctors' names, and different pharmacies. Aha moment 3, my hearing loss. I don't know any person that ever went deaf from opioids, but I did. I did. First, it started with ringing and muffling sounds in my ear. And then an audiologist asked me, do you have any family history of hearing loss or drug use? I said, no to both. I was in denial. He said, okay, we're gonna fit you for hearing aids for a little bit of time and see if they work. I got fitted for hearing aids, and guess what? They worked for 3 months. And then one day I woke up on my couch, and guess what? I couldn't hear nothing. I was deaf, nothing at all. I was so obsessed with chasing my pills that my hearing loss didn't even faze me. Addiction is so powerful. You could lose everything and still want the drug. Every year, it just got worse and worse and worse for me. It never gets better when you're suffering with substance use disorder. I was being sought out by the DEA. DEA. I was scared for my life. One day, I went into a pharmacy with a forged script. They called the cops, and like Catch Me If You Can, I walked out. I was desperate, and I was scared. The biggest fear for me was to go to the feds and cold turkey in jail. My back was up against the wall. I was desperate. I lost all my doctors at once. Literally, like 10 or 15 of my doctors, I lost them. I knew something had to change. So guess what? I looked up at the sky, and I had a conversation with God. I said, I can't do this no more. My recovery journey began that hot August night. I will never forget it. I realized I was helpless, and I surrendered. It's so much power behind surrendering. It's so much power behind putting your hand up and saying, I can't do this. I'm helpless. Can you help me? Guess what? So months later, I started feeling sick. I go to the ER, feeling weird. Guess what I found out? That at 41, I was having my first child. I looked at the doctor and said, what? How did this happen? How was this possible? I was having my first baby at 41. So guess what? I felt these little feet in my belly, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. I loved it. I did everything right. My prenatal appointments, everything. And then I cried a lot because I figured to myself, how can I be a good mom for my kid? I can't hear him. Then, in my 24th week, I started having these pains that I never felt before. I wanted to kill myself. So I go to the ER, and after 4 trips to the ER, the doctor said to me, you're having Braxton Hicks. I looked at him and said, Tony Braxton did what? I was mad. You know, in labor, you be ready to knock something out. The doctor told me they were false contractions. I never heard of them before. Guess what? I delivered my baby on the back of an ambulance on a cool, cloudy March 24th day. Then I get his birth certificate back, and I look at it. It say place of birth, Ambulance squad, Route 38 and Hartford Road. My baby was a gift from God. He was in the NICU for 6 months before I could bring him home. Not only did I get the gift of my son, but a NICU doctor told me about cochlear implants. I had never heard of them before. 5-hour procedure. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. I want to hear my baby's voice. So guess what? The first time I heard his voice, he was 2 years old. I was holding him in my arms, and I was singing to him. I said, Mommy, love you. He looked at me like, what? I said, Mommy, love you. And he looked at me crazy. So I started kissing him all over his face. Then he said, bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. I was like, oh my God. That was the happiest day of my life, hearing his little big mouth. I just want to say that my dad passed away in 2017, and he called my son the Reverend Wright Houston Love Ellis. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, the Reverend Wright Houston Love Ellis. Today, we stand here, we're celebrating life, love, and recovery. We can recover from anything. We have seen many moments that felt like ends. Our lives consisted of timing, turmoil, and testimony. Whatever you're going through is not who you are. Do you understand that? You too can survive and thrive. Recovery is not a one-size-fits-all. It's not. There are many pathways to recovery. And guess what? The first step is surrendering. Put your hand up. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let you go. Never, never give up on yourself. If you have people suffering with substance use disorder, please know they can overcome it. We do recover.